Hey everyone, looks like we are live for the bonus live stream of how to paint an angel. So I'm so happy to be able to share that with everybody today. Today we are going to do mostly paintbrush techniques because we're due. So last couple of live streams was basically nothing but airbrush techniques. But before I go into some of the paintbrush techniques, what I want to do is kind of soften some of the edges that are on the hairline, and probably right there would be the best place to soften some edges. So that would be very important to go ahead and do that. So let's see here. Hey Mr. Bobby, great to see you all the way from Cape Cod. It's a little cooler today here in Jersey. How is it in Massachusetts? Because it's a lot more seasonable. Yesterday it was like 82 degrees. It was unbelievable. But yeah, so I'm so glad to see you, my friend. So cool. We were working on that question that you had, did that resolve the issue, I hope? So now I have my airbrushes still with what is, 73. That is nice. So I still have the paint from yesterday in there. So I'm going to empty this out. And we're going to mix some hair color. And I'm thinking maybe it might be a good idea. Oh, I'm so glad, Bobby. That's cool. That makes me happy. And so we have our skin tone. And I'm going to be looking at my reference on Pure Ref and see what would be the best game plan for the hair. And I'm going to look at my reference really tightly. Always look long, paint slow, right? So, make sure you make your decisions slowly. So, you always want to have as much action as possible when going into something such as the soft edges of the hair. And so way I see this, rather than just blend it everywhere, we can actually mix a really nice mid-tone here. So I'm going to start with some Wicked paint, and let's see what we have here. We have sepia, which is really nice. And I'm going to mix the sepia with a little bit of black. So the sepia we begin with is Detail Sepia 0070. Highly recommend, if you haven't gone over to the Wicked line of paints, you really will enjoy it. Just having all those different colors. And and not just any colors, but like perfect colors for what you want to do to create a real fine art appearing painting. It's really great. And I'm going to mix a really dark gray with that. Let's see how this goes. And then just a couple of drops of this here, which is opaque jet black. It's really strong. And then I'm going to dilute this 2-to-1 because I want it, and that's 2-to-1 with 4011. I don't want it to be so opaque. I want it to be semi-opaque as opposed to semi-transparent. So if it's semi-opaque, that means it's opaque leaning to transparency. And if it's semi-transparent, then it's transparent leaning towards opaque or opacity. So let's go ahead and make this happen here. I'm going to test this color out. And we always test it on a scrap piece of paper, right everybody? How important that is. Make sure to checking that. Oh, beautiful. See, I'm doing little squiggly lines, lowercase l's, dots. Whenever you start the day, always start it that way. Hey, that rhymes. Okay, so it's mostly sepia. And we're just going to start softening some of these edges here. Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that, my friend. Bobby says this is coming out good. Thank you. You know, the whole thing is to just stick with it, right, sir? You know, the first couple of the first I mean the underpainting went really well, but the first application of color was a pretty scary moment, but we made it through. So now you can see I'm softening that edge, you know. Before we painted the wig, first the helmet, then the wig, and now the hair. So that's pretty much. See, now we softened that over there. All these little things go a long way to create a painting that has all the fundamentals of a good portrait. This is actually soft edge here. So I'm just going to soften this edge here. You wouldn't really know, but if everything was hard edge, it just wouldn't feel right. So just softening that edge there. And let's see. Yeah, very soft edge. But I'm going to make an executive decision, and I'm going to make sure that I leave some hard edges, even though my image doesn't show that. Sometimes you have to make those decisions. And now I'm going to clean up some of the imperfections over time. Little paint splatters that happen. And now we can soften some of the edges of her hair. We want the hair to go back, right? So for that to happen, we just have to soften these edges quite dramatically. So I'm going to increase my distance, and by doing that, I'm able to soften the edges. And lots of soft edges up here as well. So I just did a live stream a little over 12 and a half hours ago, which is cool, and it's a lot of fun. You know, if you don't love live streaming, you would see as doing 2 live streams in 12 hours as crazy. But I love it. I love sharing my work and sharing uh, my expertise and hopefully inspire. That's my goal. So I hope I do that. And by doing more live streams, I get better at it, right? And that's another thing. I want to get better at it. Pretty hard edge here, so I can leave that alone. But I do have some opportunities to work out some of the larger shapes of her hair, which is really good. And the good thing is, I know it's 12:30, a lot of people are working, that sort of thing, you know, doing things they have to do, but this is going to be on record, so that's good. So I'm softening the edge. As I'm getting further, I want to get softened out, I'm just going to increase my distance, and then I'll get that kind of halo effect that I'm looking for. Here it's soft edge, but not so much. But what I can do is start cleaning up some of the overspray from working on the background. See if I can zoom out a little bit. There we go. Perfect. Okay. And notice I'm not using any freehand shield or any freehand stencils or anything like that, because I like the soft edges. Colette, how are you all the way from the Atlanta area? So great to see you. How are you today? And now we're just softening her hair and also fixing all of the inconsistencies that happen over time. And you know, it's not always the fun part that's important. Sometimes these rather, you know, more simple things, such as making sure your edges are correct, go a long way. And softening those edges, really important. The further away, the lighter the spray. So if I want to create beautiful soft edges, I just have to increase my distance from the airbrush to the paper or whatever surface you're painting on. So this is actually 8 weeks of this painting, which is great. Now, of course, I could probably knock this painting out within 3 days, but that would be the same amount of hours. And, you know, when I'm working on my own and, you know, not demonstrating, I could go through this pretty quickly. But the reason why my live streams go really long is because I don't do anything outside of the live stream. So if you have if all the recordings are there, it's basically a free lesson on how to paint this from the very beginning, which is really important resource that I'm happy to able to share with you all. Now, this beautiful area right down here, that's rather soft edged. Well, this is hard edge, and we're going to come in with those little curly hairs right there, but this has to be nice and soft. Right where the zygomatic bone goes into the zygoma, where the zygomatic bone attaches to the temporal bone. So it's important to know your anatomy. It's actually crucial if you want to take the work to that next level. You know, it's like, do you want to take it to that next level? If you do, then anatomy is really important. A little bit of tip dry. So the airbrush is the Extreme Patriot Arrow, customized by myself. And I'm also going to come in with some paintbrush techniques in a little bit, which is going to be a lot of fun to share. And this is really important to get the shadow in this area right here. All these things create depth and kind of polish off the painting. At this stage, we're probably like 80% done with the painting. It's really just refining at this point. You know, coming in with the dark accents. Well, right now, just polishing up her hair. And now I'm just going to worry about softening up this edge here. Let me see if I can zoom back out. Yeah, so this area has to be softened. And getting the values correct. So this area has to all be in shadow, which is very important. What's great is I can use this hair color for my shadows in the skin. Sometimes it works out, right? And you just got to go with it. Very soft edged over here. You have a little bit of a hard edge, maybe right here. Just create a little tiny bit of a hard edge. And right over here. I think I like to have a hard edge on this side. See how one side is hard edge? Let me see if I can lower this so you can see what I did. Move this up. So right here, I have a hard edge to the camera left and then a soft edge to camera right. I think in our final installment next week, we're going to work on her blouse over here on the bottom, which is going to be good, kind of bringing everything together. Maybe come here and make this more luminous, a little bit more information on a little tiny bit more information on the definition of the wing, but not much. Oh, thank you so much. Colette says she's looking beautiful. I appreciate that so much. And just continue to make sure I have a good contrast on this side. And then I'll show you how I'm going to create blue shift and then glaze over that blue shift and then come in with paintbrush techniques. But now I think I have sufficient soft edges, which is good. So remember yesterday I came in with this gray color over here and it kind of left some really like dead color, which really was quite ugly. So I'm kind of getting rid of that right now. So let's take advantage of our paint here, and we could create a couple of hard edges that I think will help us greatly. I always say perpendicular and not parallel, but I think in times of hair it actually works out really well. So let's look up here and I'll get my reference, and we have a few really nice hard edges here and there. Like right here. I'm just going to crawl right along. And you see how we can, and the thing is, hair's not like spaghetti. It doesn't continue the whole time. It kind of, it'll stop in one area, then start in another area, and it'll create sort of like the way waves would be on let's say a lake on a windy day. We'll have a nice hard edge here. See how we created that hard edge? And it might look rough, but then we just couple that with a soft edge. And kind of have it hard going into soft. And that creates interest, right? But I'm also paying attention to my reference, which is really crucial. And with hair, you always want to make sure that you always want to make sure with hair that you're getting the direction of the hair, which is really important. Make sure that the hairs are not equidistant in the same size, because then it'll look mechanical and fake. And we'll just zoom out a little bit here. Okay. At this stage, we are getting a little bit of overspray, but that's working to our benefit. Hair is something that when you're working, it's going to be part of your painting from the very beginning, right? It's something that you're not just going to resolve. You're going to be working that with the rest of your portrait. So just make sure that you're just building up the hair, working on the hair throughout the actual painting process. And I'm worrying more about the direction of the hair right now. We have some flyaway hairs here. When you're doing these flyaway hairs, you wanna be pretty confident in your strokes. You're gonna have a little bit of a light effect off of the hair here. Okay, so I'm going to go a little stronger with the airbrush in the eyes, which I was originally thinking of doing paintbrush techniques, but feeling pretty good. Now work on the pupil here. Really have her eyes pop, right? That's what we want. I'm really enjoying painting this beautiful angel. Kind of thought about doing an angel for my mom who passed away this year. Okay, so that looks pretty good. What I can do is start coming in with some paintbrush techniques, and I can actually use this color and a paintbrush. Let me move this aside so we can show the my stinky wet palette. I did soak it in, I did soak the wet palette in antibacterial soap, and it made it go away a little bit, the smell, but it's still there lurking about. But we go forward. So here is the wet palette, dun dun dun, and yeah, it still smells like a cat pee or something. It's really gross. And let me go get my paintbrush. Now, I did have that packet of paintbrush. Oh, here it is, right in front of me. Oh, Colette says the dreaded lips. Yeah, lips are fun, but they can get away from us, right, Colette? Okay, so let's start with these two beautiful brushes right here. And so the first thing is we're going to start working on some of this, some of these little tight details here. And everyone knows, who knows me and my technique, is I very much advocate a dry brush technique. Okay. And we'll work on some tight details here. See if I can zoom in. Okay. This is the same color that I mixed for the airbrush. Just really getting in there. Some of the more finer details of this painting. Little bit of a definition in the crease there. Oh, thanks, Colette. The beauty of the SL2, which I have as my overhead camera, and that really has served me well, Colette. And let's go on over to her other eye. We have definition of the crease of the upper eyelid. And a little bit over here. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that, Colette. Thank you. Colette likes the close-ups. Now, I want to mix a little bit of a red because in here we have a little bit of a reddish color in there. I know it's only for just a little moment here and there, but I'm going to add some of my pre-mixed Wicked Red. Really loving it. How could you not love working with Wicked paints? Great for airbrushing, great for paintbrush techniques. Super love it. Okay, so right in here, it has like a crimson color. And since I already have a dark color in there, I think it might be good for me to actually just come in straight with red. Oh, thanks. Bobby says it's a great close-up as well. I appreciate that, sir. Thank you, guys. And I'm just going to layer some red on that. Give it a little bit. You know, you don't want it to be, you know, any kind of, you know, recession in the face or in anywhere has more of a red color than black. So always stay away from black or gray. There's always saturation. Well, most of the time. When oil paint, some people will work and put straight alizarin crimson here. And then let's see what's going on with this eye here. Well, this is more of a light pink, so I'm going to take a little bit of a light color. And with this, I think we could go ahead and maybe add some of this color. This is Tim Gore's Bloodline Lifeline Olive Gold. That might be good enough. We'll see. I'm going to mix that together. So right in here, the corner of her eye, we have a kind of a flesh color. And maybe we can add, hey, Mr. Brad, how's it going? Bonus live stream, that is true. How are you, my friend? Great to see you. All the way from Manitoba, Canada. So it's good to see Mr. Brad. And so you see on this side, it's on the light side, so the corner of her eye has to be lighter. And so when you get to this stage of the painting, what starts to happen is you start doing these little tiny micro adjustments like this until, you know, you're at the point where you did everything that you feel you can do to make it the best painting, and that's when you sign it. So I like this kind of flesh color that I'm doing right there. Just creating some really nice detail in her eyes, which is good. And you know, when you're working in paintbrush techniques, remember it's going to be much more hard edged than airbrush. Much more hard edged. And let's see what we have on her eye here. Any detail we can kind of put in. Well, we do have a lighter color here, so we can add the lighter color to her eye, eye eyelid, upper eyelid on this side. And you don't want to overdo it, right? I'm going to use that lighter color to kind of put a little more fleshy in this corner of her eye. Brad says, lots to be happy about the USA since Tuesday. Glad to see some sanity finally. Unfortunately, I can't talk about politics on the channel, but I appreciate your viewpoint, sir. You know, on the channel, I really have to make sure that I stay centrist, and you know, I don't want to alienate any of my you know, subscribers in the community. Very cool, Brad. Let's see here. Okay, I'm going to create a little more depth to the corner of her eye socket here. And just pulling that over. But I like, so now I'm working with the hair color, the red and the olive gold to get some really interesting shadows here. And let's see, just pulling this over. There we go. So it's hard to create the depth in the hair, I mean in the eyes and everything, because it's all, you know, very soft, especially with paintbrush techniques. But we're going to keep trying. That's the important thing. Now, with the paintbrush, which we look over here, we can actually start to put some definition in the wing of her nostril, which is great. This is a lot of fun, this part of, you know, going in with detail and, you know, starting to, you know, really get into the finishing touches of a portrait. And at this stage, the portrait gets much more realistic rather quickly, because this is the culmination of all the hard work of what, 8 weeks, right? 8 weeks of work, you know. And oh, and Colette says the close-ups are just amazing. Bobby says, I wish I can get something going. Been in a funky place, no ambition, unfortunately. We all get there, Bobby. You know, that happens to all of us. Just make sure that you know, give yourself a break You know, don't be hard on yourself. But you know, when you can, just do one thing, you know, during the day. And Brad says the subtleties really add up. They really do, Brad. You know, they really do add up. So I'm working in the paintbrush techniques, not as just putting in tight detail, but adding some shadows. So I'm definitely refining as I would an oil painting. So it's always an advantage to know different mediums because once you master one medium, they'll all fall like dominoes. And that's the truth, you know. They will all fall like dominoes. So if I zoom out, you guys and girls could see. Let me see here. Zoom out. How she's starting to, you know, have a better emotion, right? That's what we want. We want to have, we want to portray that emotion as well. So right under here, we could add some color, and also right here in between the hairs. I have all the Tim Gore's Lifeline colors, and we have this one, which is really nice, is a deep olive gold. And let's put that in. That will give us a nice dark kind of complement. And then there's this other one called Espresso, which is a nice deep dark. These are the Lifeline. They are part of the illustration series. Let's see if we can kind of darken this up here. That's my goal, to darken this up. This in-between area. And I talked to, you know, the great people over at Createx, and they said you can mix the illustration and the wicked together. So I definitely will see how I was able to, with the hair color that I mixed up and the deep espresso, I was able to actually match the shadow area, which is really good. Just add a little depth to her nose and a little more depth to her shadow. Very subtle shadow underneath her wing of the nostril to where the philtrum goes. And maybe come in with some lighter color here. So I use my experience from working in oils and pastel in my airbrush paintings. You got to use everything. Hey, Mr. Michael McClung, how are you, my friend? Welcome to the bonus live stream. I appreciate that. Thank you, sir. Thank you for coming by. How's work going, sir? Oh, we have a beautiful dark over here. So let's see if we can. I want to do a lot of paintbrush techniques if good. Oh, Michael, thank you so much. She's saying that, you know, she's looking good. I appreciate that. Thank you. You all been with me through this painting from the very beginning, huh? So you've seen the good parts and the bad parts. In creating this dark on this side. We can help out the soft edge here. Wow, Brad, thank you so much for the super chat, my friend. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much for the support and friendship. I really, really thank you for that. And Colette says, I don't recall any bad parts. Oh, thank you, Colette. That's nice. Well, week 2, which was the initial application of the Lifeline colors in Airbrush, and it was a little weird. Something happened with the way it was layering. I don't like the way that you can't really layer the Lifeline colors. That's not their forte. So I learned the hard way that that's no good. And so thank you so much, Brad, for that super chat. I appreciate you, sir. Just creating a little bit, bringing forward her chin. Little things like that are so important to do. Now we're going to go back to the wing of her nostril and nostril area. This comes over here and then kind of goes parallel. There we go. I like that. So I promised in my introduction yesterday that I would talk about the 70-30 rule. I didn't get a chance to talk about it last night because we were doing mostly paintbrush technique. But now, airbrush technique. Now we're doing paintbrush technique. I can go over it. So there's a lot of variations to the 70-30 rule. Some artists, they paint in airbrush, the whole time. And that's cool. That's okay. But then there's like some artists have the 60-40 rule, the 70-30 rule. You'll hear that a lot. And what that means is that they do airbrush 70% of the time, and then 30% of the time other things, erasing, paintbrushes, that sort of thing, colored pencils. I use colored pencils often in my paintings in airbrush, and they work really well with it. Now, pastel, no. So why not pastel when you're, because you want to clear it, right? And you can't clear it because when you clear pastel, it's going to get dark and horrible. So you want to be careful of that. So that's why I don't use pastel, but colored pencil clears really nicely. But you have to be very, very select with that. You don't want to go crazy with that. So the wet palette is doing good. Michael says that's a really nice skin tone you got on her. Thank you, sir. It just takes a while, to build it up with several layers. So I made the mistake of trying to do my build up with the Lifeline colors. They're great for doing a color underpainting, one layer, leave it alone, one and done, going over it with Wicked paint. In the future, I am going to go in right away with the Wicked. I'm not going to go in with the Lifeline. So that's my game plan in the future. But we learn so much, don't we? Right? We always are learning, always adjusting. Okay, so that's really good. And we'll zoom out, and so I'm happy with it, I'm happy with the progression. Here again, there's a little bit of a light area. So we can go back in with the hair color and kind of soften things up. But I like, in the area of the flyaway hairs in the background, the paintbrush doesn't quite do what you want it to do. So that airbrush just gives you that nice softness that we're looking for. And if we have some flyaway hairs, you just want to be fast. See how, let me see if I zoom in here. See how you go in quick? You don't want to wire, right? So you want to do like a long dagger stroke very thinly. See if I can go a little higher. Practice these off of the painting, right? You want to make sure you get this correct. As long as you are confident in your strokes, it's going to be okay. You don't want to be tentative. You can't get this kind of effect with a paintbrush, so don't try it. Just do it with the airbrush. But practice off of the painting. See how nice and soft that looks. Zoom out. And now when we zoom in, you can just see how beautiful those hairs look natural. They're going to be thicker and thinner, so you're going to, you know, it's not going to be like one long equal thickness. Then it starts looking like a wire. So you want to be weary of that. I'm going to get this soft halo. And that's like an atmospheric effect, you know, where you have, you know, a really kind of soft edge, kind of even like soft edge, but kind of a halo effect, no pun intended, with since we're painting an angel. But definitely this is definitely a work in progress. You're going to take your time. You're not rushing it. There's no reason to rush whatsoever. Now off camera, I'm going to practice some really thin hairs. And let's see how we can do here. See how I did some really thin hairs there? But I practice off camera first. See how the paintbrush really can't emulate that. Is there a soft edge over here? I think so. We're going to look at that together. Let's see. Yeah, definitely soft edge. So let's go ahead and soften this up. So has anyone has taken my classes and we worked in the Airbrush India ink, all the concepts are the same. The only difference is we're mixing color. But everything, going from light to dark, waiting for your details towards the end. So it's important that I soften that up, right? And then we have some atmospheric effects up here. And it's nice and dark, so we can come back. So you see how the paintbrush and the airbrush kind of support each other, right? And that's important to, you know, work them together, not separate, but kind of, you know, one supports another. And then I think that's okay. All right, so feeling okay about that. I do have my paintbrush fired up here. And let's see if we could work on her body a little bit. You know, maybe kind of get some of the harder edges, like right here on her clavicle, as the clavicle kind of extends out from the acromion process. Let's see here. And we'll have a nice hard edge. So right here, we're just going to see, does it fit, you know? And I think it does. So we have a skin color we can utilize right now. It's a little bit on the light side, so we're going to add some of this hair color that we had. See how we can incorporate. But you know what? I think, and you always want to have your mind fluid, right? You want to keep working back and forth and, you know, being able to adjust on the fly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my freehand shield here, and now if I want it semi-hard edge, I'll just put my finger underneath the freehand shield, and you'll get a hard edge, but not super hard edge. See how we're able to do that? And just to give a little bit of structure to her body there. And I like that, you know, a little bit of a hard edge here and there. Down here we have a little bit of a deeper shadow on her deltoid here. Same thing, we'll soften up the shadow as it comes out of the hair here. I can always lighten that up. There's no problem with that if I need to. And you can see when you have a little bit of tip dry, your airbrush is not as responsive, but once I clean that tip dry, I can sketch a lot better. On the camera, a little bit of light from a blue shift is evident, but it's not evident in real life. But I still want to clean it up because I want it to look good on camera as well as in life. It's nice and dark here, so we're going to enrich this dark. It got a little bit light over here from a lot of overspray and whatnot. Okay, so now I think we could use this hair color, and let's see if we can start working on some of the detail of her scalp with a part of her hair. Let's give this a shot, everybody. A little bit of dry brush technique here. So when you're doing stuff like this, please make sure that you get the direction of the hairs. Really important. It's a little on the thin side. Remember, I did a 2-to-1 mixture. Let's dry brush this. And you see it staggers. Some are deeper, some are in further, but we're giving the impression that, you know, she has hair coming out of her scalp. See, just little by little. And then I'm going to come back in with light color as well. But just get the direction of the hair. Make sure that some are longer and some are shorter going into the scalp. Colette says she has to run. She catch the rest tonight. Take care, Colette. Thanks for hanging out. Thank you so much for the super chat yesterday. Really appreciate you. You take care. Hopefully we'll talk later today. I'm so glad that we were able to do, and for the generous donations last night, so I could do this live stream today. Thank you, Colette and Mr. Dave, Colette, Michael McGlung. I really appreciate you all and also Brad today for, making it possible for me to spend the time to do this live stream. It's more cohesive. If I can finish this painting quicker, maybe doing 2 live streams a week as opposed to 1, it's a much faster learning experience. Because remember, I don't do anything off camera because I want everyone to learn, to follow along from every step of the way. All these little things like here, they're little, they're tiny. It's not like a crucial part of the painting, but it's really important because if you don't have it and you just let it go, it's just going to make it less of an effective painting. Just like so. So now you can see, like, oh, cool, she has the hair coming out of the scalp. Oh, great. Michael says he does learn from watching me. Oh, I appreciate it. If I can inspire a little bit, then I'm doing a good thing. And thank you for your support, Michael. Definitely, sir. Love the paintings you're doing. Remember, there's things that a paintbrush can do better than an airbrush. So why use an airbrush when you can do it better with a paintbrush? A lot of time there's, people will say, well, it's, you have to do, 100% paintbrush. I don't know where that's written, right? So always use whatever technique's going to get you to where you want to be. And of course, you see I'm dry brushing a lot. Then we have some straggler hairs here and there. So now we have the scalp, which is very cool. And let's see if we zoom out. It's something you don't readily notice, but it really does work out. So what I'm going to do is I do have the white mixture left over from last night. Let me pull that over. It's always good to conserve, right? So I'll just mix this up. What I'm going to do is going to add that. And, oh, the paintbrush and the eraser, yes. I'm not much of an eraser guy, but I do know it's a very effective tool, my friend. That's for sure. So I'm going to mix this white with some of the olive gold. And now we'll kind of do the negative space, right? It's not just the positive that we do, but the negative as well. There we go. And we're not going to know exactly how it's going to react until we do it. Oh yeah, see that? Now we can really get in some nice detail into that scalp. But like I said, you know, you all enabling me to do this second live stream of the week means more art lessons, more projects to follow along, and to help your own projects. Okay, so I have this light here. I'm just going to do a couple more. So you see how I can work in the negative space, and then, you know, with the dark color of the hair, kind of really get a really nice, beautiful effect. And let's see, with a little bit of dry brush, we can start coming in with some of the lights in her hair, which works out. So I've been doing portraits since I was like 14 years old. I think my first commissioned portrait I was like 15. So, you know, this is a lot of experience, a lot of years of seeing basically everything. And so that's what I really enjoy doing this. Oh, Michael's got to go back to work. Thank you, sir. It's great to see you. Hopefully you can catch the remainder on record. So I'm going to leave it on record for everybody to see. And now we can really start getting in with the detail of her beautiful hair. So this is, you know, just slowly bringing things together. And, you know, it's in the details, right? You know, we work so hard to get the major shapes. Now we get to enjoy the details. So this Saturday around 3 o'clock, I will be having a recorded video, part 4, of doing the portrait of Emma Watson in Airbrush and India ink. So that's going to be fun. It's great to put that on your calendar, because that's going to be a really good video to help you learn about value and building up texture slowly from light to dark. And it's really great to, you know, slowly build up these values here in her hair and texture, and that's what we're doing right now. Combination of soft edge and hard edge really helps to create an image that is memorable, unforgettable. See? Okay, so let's see. We are just continuing to work on her hair. We may glaze some nice amber colors so she has some amber highlights, and we'll go ahead and address that. And you want to get the direction of the hair, very important. And just always be careful of the blue shift, even when doing paintbrush techniques. So I may go a little bit more detailed, like in the hair with airbrush. Some light highlights here and there. So, you know, the hair is always a work in progress. It's going to be something that you work on from the very beginning to the end of the painting. And let's see. Oh, we have like a straggler hair, group of hairs that come out here and kind of meander out here like this. Just little things to create interest. And let's see down here, we have some hairs happening here. And I'm going to dust it down. Just little stragglers here. So what my game plan is that I'm going to come in with this kind of amber color here. And then I'm going to soften it up with some airbrush techniques. Right about here, we have some shapes we can work on. Like I said, I'm just establishing, and then I could soften up. And you know, a lot of times I'm winging it. You know, sometimes I'll do something I never did before, something like this kind of technique of putting it down pretty strong and then coming in and softening it up later. That's what I'm doing right now. Her hair is very important for the whole mood of the painting. So I am being a little more forceful with her hair right now than, you know, I would on other portraits. I am enjoying this portrait a lot. Great thing about working with any acrylic paint, you know, as opposed to, let's say, oil. Oil, this would stay wet for like, since I work with walnut oil as my medium, that could stay wet for like good 48 hours to 72 hours. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I am going to, you always want to wash out your brush working with Wicked paints because that will kill your paintbrush if you don't rinse it immediately. So take my advice on that one. You want to keep your brushes really good for as long as possible. So that's really important. Okay, so I have my other airbrush, the Extreme Patriot 105. It had that gray in it from the background. Remember when I did the bouquet last night? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dump this out. And I did what Drew Blair said, you know, just put some water in it, and this way I don't have to worry about the paint drying or clogging up the airbrush. And it really is working really well. So I say it in every live stream, but Drew is really has the right idea, definitely. And the proof's in the pudding, right? If it didn't work every time, then I know. But, you know, I'm a power user, right? I do this to make money. So I'm working a lot. So I'm able to incorporate some of these theories. And some theories are not good, you know, and some theories really work. And in that case, that's a theory that really is a home run. So let's say you're painting and you have some paint left in your airbrush. You're going to spray out a little bit and then put some water in, cover it, put it there, and you'll be okay till the next day. So, but the next day you got to remember to clean out your airbrush, right? But it just means you ever working and it's late at night and you're really tired and you're like, oh my God, just want to go to bed. You do have a good 24-hour period to go ahead and, but it's rarely I go 24 hours without airbrushing. I'm going to remove my needle and just clean this out. I want to dust over these lights with a really nice rich amber color. I'm thinking transparent iron oxide. Let's see. Or even if I can find blood orange. I love that color. Burnt orange by Wicked. So I'm going to look for that. Detail Wicked blood orange. I do love that color. How about you all? Do you guys like that color? What's your favorite Createx color? I'd love to hear it. If you're watching this on repeat, just go ahead and you know, put it in the comments. You know, what is your favorite airbrush color by Createx? Now, I know not many people work in Wicked like I do, so it could be illustration or it could be the Wicked line. I'm just enamored with the Wicked line, as you know. I'm very happy with it. And so I'm going to look for my blood orange or burnt orange. I initially thought of red iron oxide, but I'm not in love with red iron oxide as I am with the burnt orange. We got burnt sienna, but that's a little boring. I don't want boring. Got Wicked brown. That Wicked brown's a good color. I like Wicked brown a lot. Let me get my glasses and put some light on the subject here. The colors are going to get a little weird because I have incandescent lights I'm going to turn on so I can see the colors. let me come over here, see if I can find my Wicked colors here. So I'm looking for burnt orange, Wicked brown. That may be my second choice. I found it, everybody. This is a great color. Detail burnt orange 0066. Hey there, Mr. Nick. How's it going? Great to see you. From Minnesota. I know I got it right. Am I right, my friend? Great to see you. How are you? We still got a good 40 minutes, so that's good. So I'm glad you're able to make it, sir. So I have some of the burnt orange there, but I want to put it through my airbrush. So I'm going to get a cup and I'm going to mix this 2 to 1. Now, why 2 to 1 and not 1 to 1? 2 to 1 because I want to glaze over that. 1 to 1 if I wanted to cover more. So we're going to take, so Nick, what do you think of the burnt orange color? Love to hear your thoughts. Have you tried it? I really, detailed burnt orange. So one of the things that really love the detail, the Wicked detail line and the opaque, is that they give us really amazing colors, you know, that are shortcut colors. You don't have to mix them, and it's really great. So I'm going to do a 2 to 1 with this burnt orange because I'm going to put it through my Extreme Patriot, customized Extreme Patriot 105. So, and then I have it on my wet palette as well. Oh, okay, so you use more illustration colors. So, Nick, what is your, like, your forte? What kind of work do you do most of the time? Like, what do you find yourself painting? Portraits or murals? Love to hear. And thank you for, you know, your information always and hanging out with us. So here we have this really beautiful transparent burnt orange. It's very saturated, and that's what I want. And I'm going to leave that over there so I could go ahead and add that with paintbrush techniques. So making sure when I pull back, when I push down for air, you always want to check to make sure that paint's not coming out. And that will happen if there's a little speck of dried paint or your needle's not all the way forward. So you want to do that before you go onto your artwork. And now when I'm pulling back, I can lower my air pressure because this is very thin, right? So I'm lowering my air pressure with the pack valve. I can lower it even more. Okay, happy with the spray. Now, I'm going to just start to glaze this burnt orange. It's not translating all that well, but it's looking good in person as opposed to on camera. So it's really pulling out some really beautiful, beautiful glaze. It's almost working like a candy right now. And this is kind of warming up the shadows on her hair. I mean, the light areas of her hair, I should say. And it's actually warming up the shadows. So I'm doing a light glaze over the black. Now, you're not going to see it. I could like paint little squiggly lines. You won't see it because it's a transparent over a dark. However, I can, give it a little bit of warmth, a little bit of life that it doesn't have, which is great. These little subtle things, that's what I mean. Like, when we paint every day, we tend to learn this kind of stuff. Oh, so Nick says portraits like my painting, stuff like Drew Blair. Very cool. And you have a background in automotive painting. That's amazing, sir. Do you have a website that we can go ahead and check out your work? I would love for everyone to see your amazing paintings. Nick says, within the past 5 years, he switched from House of Color solvent-based paint to Createx brand. It's like relearning everything over again. I took 2 classes with Jonathan Pantaleone in like 2012, and he worked in solvents. And solvents, as you know, is a whole different animal. No tip dry, and just the way that it mixed, and it was just a pleasure. But as you know, probably why you switched to water base is how deadly it are. I had like a sore throat when working with it. And that's weird, a sore throat. Oh my God. So you see how I'm coming in and kind of doing a light glaze of that burnt orange. Now, this is where things get interesting because, well, actually, before I do that, let's go ahead and soften these edges here. So now I have the original hair color. Kind of de-emphasize this, but you still want it there. You want that interest, right? Interest in the imagery. This variation here with just a little bit of color really makes a big difference. Now it's very de-emphasized. The contrast is really low, but it gives your eye somewhere to go, And yep, so Nick says, yep, he couldn't take the chemicals anymore. Yeah, so true. So definitely de-emphasize this. Same thing here. But we still want a little bit of that beautiful bit of color here. We want our paintings to be better than the reference. We don't want to be slavish, and just copy, right? We're painters. We're creating a piece of artwork, which is much better than any photographic reference, right? So that's so important. Okay, so we can come back in here. So you see how we do paintbrush, airbrush, paintbrush. Working them together, it's unbelievable. So I'm really happy I'm able to do this second live stream during the week. And thank you everyone who donated with the super chat so I could spend the time doing this. And so it's important that to have live streams twice a week because then the painting goes by quicker. They're recorded. You can learn faster. A lot of times, when, we're working, once a week, it's not as effective. So thank you for that. And always look at our reference. That's going to be our answer. Just do a little curly Q here. And then I'll come back in with the paintbrush. So you see, you see how I go back and forth, right? Definitely, being more fluid with my thinking at the end, going back and forth. In the beginning, you're much more pragmatic. Now you're kind of feeling things out. See how I can get that really, tight detail. And since I have this, let's see if we could do some tiny little paintbrush techniques here in the eyelashes. Maybe a little bit. So you see how we go from the hair to the scalp to the skin to, it's really fast. Nick says, do you use any of the 4030 or 4004? I want to get to 4004, Nick, because I work in, I definitely like working in the candies. So, yes, so definitely want to try the 004. What do you think of the 004, sir? I do use a lot of the 4050, and I heard that kind of replaced the uh, the 4030. But let me know your thoughts on that, definitely. Always look at our reference, right? Keep that in mind that our reference is really important. So we got a lot done already so far, which is really cool. Let's see if we could just add a little detail to her iris here. Okay, great. Now I'm going to wash out this, and we are going to get our white mixture, and we're going to hit those highlights on her eyes there. Nick says, correct, he uses 4050 with the Candy 2.0, but still use 4030 with the Candy as well. What about the 4004 bleed checker? What do you feel about that, sir? I know a lot of artists are talking about that. I don't have any thus far. Let's go ahead and hit this highlight. I got to make sure I have the right eye in my reference. Always be very, very uh, thorough in where you're looking at and everything like that. It's a little bit lighter here on the sclera, and then a little fuzzier as we come over here. So that's going to give a little bit of oomph to her eyes. 40, 40, you like it? Seems to work well. Oh, great. So that's the bleed checker, is that correct, sir? Now here, it's lighter, but it's not as light as the light side. So I'm just going to kind of pull that up just a little bit, and now we'll hit the highlight here. In the photography world, it's called the catch light. 4004 is transparent base for Wicked. What's the designation for the bleed checker? Because I really want to explore working, with portraits utilizing the utilizing Wicked, and also utilizing transparent with Wicked. So I want to do that. So that's my goal. So that's important. 4040 is a yellow label. Oh, okay, great. And 40, oh, so 4040 is the, okay, I got to look for that. Thank you, sir. And, okay, so I love the way the eyes are coming out. Really powerful. Just sort of So if we zoom out, we can see uh, how her expression is really starting to come together. That's what we want, and we're getting there. So now, I'm making these decisions a lot quicker because moving around the painting, seeing different things that could. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that, Mr. Nick. Thank you. So now I have this white mixture, and I'm going to work on just some real subtleties with her wings here. See, just moving back and forth and really getting to a point where, I'm making decisions that are bringing the painting, to a nice feeling of completion. So with the feathers, of course, there's some wispy little edges here and there. So I'm just making sure I'm able to get that. Bring this over here. I try and keep my little open cups away from my painting because, disasters happen, right? But this is the fun part, when you're able to make these like real micro decisions, uh, the bottom, the underscoring of the shadow, reflected light under the wing, the underside of the wing, is darker in my reference, but I do like it kind of lighter, kind of gives it more of a heavenly glow. So I'm going to keep it that way, and you can make those decisions at the end. So it's a lot better to make decisions like that at the end when everything is in place, right? Oh, Nick says one thing he learned is to use Stabilo Aquarelle pencils for fine details when he uses solvent-based paints, but notice he can't do that with Createx. Oh, wow. That's great information. When I use colored pencils, I use the Prismacolor very sparingly, but I had some, and that was with Wicked. I did it with Golden, and it works really well, but I just have to remember not to go overboard with it because you get some really nice detail, but you pay a price. Oh, this is great. So I'm able to get like some contrast of certain edges of the wing here and our feathers. I love doing more of a fantasy. Well, I don't believe angels are fantasy. I think they're real. But something like this, I would call it, more of a concept painting. So this is with the 50/50 illustration white here. And Nick says 95% of the projects he works on will have an automotive 2K clear coat on top, so not have to worry about things not sticking. So tell me, if I'm finishing this painting, it's on shellac paper. What would you say? Would 2K clear be good for this? Or would 40/50 be better? In your opinion, sir? So that's great information. Thank you, Nick. So this white is 1:1 because I want a little bit of opacity to it. if like the blood orange I wanted to be more of a glaze, then I did 3-to-1 with the 4011. And then I could add a little bit of highlight here on top of the light. Just a little bit here and there. Now, so we have this transparent white. Can we go ahead and maybe try some highlights in the skin? It's worth a shot. I mean, I would do this when I'm working in oils. So let's see. There's on the mentalis, where the mental fat compartment is, and then the orbicularis cuts in front of it. We can maybe hit this very lightly with the white. And much like a pastel, we can build up the light slowly. And so it's like these nice little highlights we can do. Of course, it's always best to use, you know, the Wicked paint as much as possible when doing things like this. It's always best. So you see it, I get a little bit of dimension here. There we go. I mean, don't do it too much, but if I get like too hard of an edge and still wet, I'll just use my finger. But please be careful doing that. Oh, Nick says 4050 would work great, and he thinks that they would make a high gloss. 4053, if it's not going to suit the it's not going to have be with the elements inside. I do have a big bottle of 4050. Would it be okay for me to use that, Nick, with a 0.3 needle nozzle combination? There's a highlight right in the corner of her eye, so let's go down there. Oh, so Nick says he uses 2K so it will last. Mostly paint on cars, bikes, helmets, so stuff outside. Oh, great. Eventually I want to do a mural. And that's why I'm training myself with the Wicked paints. So this is great to have this extra live stream. Okay guys, I'm just going to use the little boys room real quick. I'll be right back. Thanks for your patience, and then we'll wrap up the live stream. So I appreciate that. Thank you so much for waiting. I appreciate that. I just had to use the facilities, and I think I'm happy with the general optical illusion with the painting. It's not like a perfect representation of the photo that I'm using, the reference, but that's okay. You don't want to stick with your reference if you feel you can make it look better, you know. And Nick says that he started airbrushing realistic fire back in the day is how you got into airbrushing. Wow, 2007. That's really great. So that's quite a while. That's a lot of great experience, Nick. So thank you for sharing that, definitely. So we were using our paintbrush technique with the white mixture, and we're just going to do a little dry palette here. Wet palette, not dry palette. And I just, you'll go back to kind of making her feathers look like feathers. And little by little, we'll get the effects that we're looking for, right? Now right here, we have some highlight on her shoulder. And it's interesting when we're going to, add white, you're not quite sure what it's going to do, right? So you're just going to, I reduced the white 2 to 1. So actually 1 to 1 with the 4011. And now it is the illustration white, and some people say, yeah, you can use water, and that's fine. But since I'm mixing all this with the Wicked line, I'm going to stick with the same medium, same reducer. So that's why I chose to reduce it with the 4011 as opposed to water. I'm going to put this highlight here on her shoulder. I'm going to use cross hatching here. And I want to bring this shoulder forward, right? So I'm going to create a nice little highlight here. And I'm going to build it out. And this is, using little cross hatching techniques really helps to get some subtlety with your lights. And keep them soft edged, because you can do more cross hatches if you want it harder edged, and softer edge you just, less cross hatching. Oh, very cool. Thanks, Nick. I appreciate that. So that's a good vote of confidence. Oh, so here we have the 50/50 illustration white here. There is a highlight on the upper part of her lip here. And just brings more attention to her expression, which I like, And the lighter, so if you put lighter pressure, it's going to add a lot less of the white. So just like in digital art, same thing. The lighter the pressure is going to give you an effect, right? So that's why I say it's so important to really delve into many different art forms as far as, when painting is concerned, airbrush, oil paint, pastel. It will give you an insight into how to innovate when you paint, because, a lot of times, a lot of stuff that's been done is just, kind of the the status quo. But coming from, working in different mediums, you really can begin to innovate and say, I do this with pastel. I add this layer on top of that. Hey, how you doing, Franz? Great to see you. Oh, I'm so glad you're here. How's everything? Franz, where are you from? So we have only about 4 minutes, but I'm so glad you're here, Franz. This is a bonus live stream, but it's going to be recorded so you could watch it. And on Wednesday, we're going to do the next part of this. And I think if we get a bonus live stream on next Thursday, we should be finishing her up, which is great. Nick says also the fabrication on cars, metal shaping. Wow, that's cool. Mr. Dan, how's it going? So glad you're here. So today is really good because we worked on many, many different techniques, right? We did airbrush techniques, we did paintbrush techniques, working with the white mixture. So that's really a lot has been touched. And that's why, I appreciate the super chats on Wednesday night, because always on Wednesday night, I'm going to make that a staple. If I get 5 super chats on Wednesday night, then I'll do a bonus Thursday live stream. So that's great. It's, how do you say, it allows us to finish the painting quicker and work on another one, which is great. And Franz says, down in South Africa, so cool. Oh, that's fantastic. Oh, great. So really a pleasure to see you, and South Africa is a really great place, and it's an honor to have you on the live stream, sir. Oh yes, recap on recording. Yes, sir, definitely. Definitely. So with this cross hatching technique, and not many people use that, but I love it because it allows me to really get, a very subtle kind of variation of white just by cross hatching. And that comes from doing pen and ink, right? So there's a lot of techniques at play here. Having an art school education, being a professional artist for a long time, I've learned a lot of different ways to get things done, and things that I have done in oil work surprisingly well in the airbrush world. And I've been adding some airbrush techniques into my oil paintings. So, Mr. Dan, how's it going? Dan from Indianapolis. I'm so glad you're here. Oh, yes, definitely that paint shaker. I would really love to look into that, once things get a little bit more stable financially. I'm definitely going to think about that. How do you like it? You really enjoy it, sir? It's that paint mixer, which looks great. And thank you for sending that link, sir. So on the forehead, I'm going to use this paintbrush technique. I'm going to go a little bit of extra time here. I'm just going to do a little bit of the cross hatching here. So there's the orbital ridge, or the orbital eminence on the frontal bone, on top of the eye socket is an orbital eminence, and the light hits that most of the time because the light comes from above. So you're going to see this anatomical form. You're going to look for it. Let me see if I can lighten her up just a bit. There we go. And we're just going to do some cross hatching here. When it dries, you really can't see the cross hatching, which is good. So we have a lot of work to do, definitely. I want to lighten the lips and then glaze over it with a pink, which would be really nice. Dan says he loves it, hands-free, and does all-size bottles. That's amazing. And Nick says he used to tape a few bottles to a saw blade. Wow, and that shook it up. That's a great idea as well. And using this, cross hatching is really, really good because there's no blue shift. And you see I could kind of establish more the malar fat compartment. So it's going pretty well. I remember the week 2, if you go back to the videos, week 2 was kind of rough when I was layering the lifeline colors, and they're not really made for layering, and that was not good. It was doing all this like really gray shift, and it was really quite scary. But I stuck with it, and we get there. Oh, spray cans, that's cool. Very cool. We're going to work on this highlight going along the nose. And a little bit, I'm just going to touch on that, and then that will be it for the day. But thank you so much for hanging out today. I really appreciate it. I'm just going to lighten up the sclera here, the white of the eye. There we go. And give her some depth, right? And Nick says not the safest. I would empty a quart can and pat it and use a paint shaker. Oh, cool. Okay, so there we are. And that's where we are right now. Thank you so much for being part of the bonus live stream. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for the super chat, Mr. Brad. I appreciate that. Everyone, Nick and Dan and Mr. Franz, great to see you. Colette, Michael, that's great. And Bobby and Colette, and I think I got everybody. Let me see if I missed anybody. Just want to thank everyone for being here. Brad, of course, and Michael McClung. So guys, take care. Always a pleasure. I hope you have a great weekend coming up. If you have any questions, always feel free to IM me. Take care, everybody, and I will talk to you all soon.